Hey everybody, welcome back to Swift Guitar Lessons for another lead guitar tutorial. In today's session, I'm going to be showing you how to solo over the Doc Watson version of Summertime. We're going to get started learning how to play the basic chord progression, from there some essential scales, then I'm going to show you how to play the basic melody, because that's always the first step to crafting a melodic guitar solo. And then finally, I'm going to show you how you can add in some embellishments and also some ear-catching licks along the way. Of course, I'll have a full tab, PDF study guide, and Guitar Pro at patreon.com/Swiftlessons. Now, let's get started with a demonstration. Okay, a quick look at my original solo using the high vibe acoustic. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Okay, a close look at the fretboard, getting started with section 1 of this lesson. Learning how to play the underlying chord progression. That's always something that you want to do before trying to craft a solo, because a lot of what you play is going to be in response to the chord changes. Now we're in the key of E minor. We're going to start off kind of trucking on this little riff over the E minor chord. Two repetitions. So you're just grabbing an E minor chord, 2nd fret of the A string, 2nd fret D string, playing bass down, then take your root note, change it to F sharp, then G, and then back to F sharp. Now you can throw in a few extra strums here and there if you like. Bass down, a bass down, a bass down, a bass sounds great. And I encourage you to practice singing as well. Summertime, and the living is easy. Alright, then we're gonna go to A minor to A minor 6. Fish are jumping. Add your pinky to the 2nd fret high E. And the cotton is, then B dominant 7 with an alternating bass. High, your daddy's, back to the E minor riff, trucking, rich, and your mama's good looking. Alright, then the final set of chord changes. G major, so hush, pretty E minor. A minor, honey. C major, don't you cry. And then right back to E minor. Alright, and then from there, the whole thing's gonna start back over again. Okay, so practice those chord changes, practice singing. One of the most effective ways to train your ear is just to practice singing, making sure you're hitting all those notes properly. You might want to use an external tuner so that way you can check your pitches. Okay, now that you have the chord progression down, let's move on to learning how to play the basic melody from the original track. Again, that's always the best place to start when your goal is to craft a melodic and memorable guitar solo. I'm going to do my best to show you which scale forms and chord shapes you can visualize, so that way you can really adhere the melody that you're learning to specific points on the fretboard. Okay, breaking this melody down, most people play it here in the 7th fret position, outlining this position of the E minor chord, frets 7, 9, 9, 8, 7. Now this is the E minor bar chord in its A-shaped position, which means that it's going to overlap with the A-shaped position of the E minor blues scale. Okay, right there, that is all the notes that we need to create the melody for the tune. Okay, breaking it down phrase by phrase. Phrase number 1. Okay, pretty simple, keeping an eye on that chord shape. Considering the scale notes, we're playing 7, 8, 7, high E and B string. Little vibrato sounds nice. All right, next we're going to play 10, 8, 10 on the B string. Then outline the chord. All right, right there, that's all chord tones. 7, 8, 9, 9 on the D. All right, put that together and we have summertime. Make sure you're singing. And the living is easy. All right, next we're gonna play fish are jumping. All right, that was 7 on the high E, 8 on the B, and then sliding up a full step. Then plucking that note again. Fish are jumping. And next, and the cotton is high. Okay, so that was 9th fret of the G string. I like to slide up in. All right, then we're going to the 8th fret B, alternating, and then down a half step. Right there on the B string 7th fret. And the cotton is high. Now, we're using that note by no coincidence because it's inside the incoming chord, B dominant 7. Okay, so every single note in the melody is going to respond to the chord progression. And the cotton is high. All right, you put all that together so far, we have summertime. And the living is easy. Fish are jumping. And the cotton is high. Okay, now the second repetition is going to be basically the same, but with some slight variations to the phrasing. Your daddy's rich, and your mama's good looking. So basically the same, right? All right, then over that final pattern of chords, G, E minor, A minor, C, E minor, we're gonna play. So hush, little baby, honey, don't you cry. Okay, so that was 9, 7, 9, 7, 9, 8, 7 on the high E, honey, 10th fret B string, 8th fret, 9, 9 on the G. So hush, little baby, honey, don't you cry. Okay, review time. Now we're gonna play through the whole melody using the backing track on the high vibe. Summertime, and the living is easy. Fish are jumping, and the cotton is high. B7. Your daddy's rich, and your mama's good looking. So hush, little baby, honey, don't you cry. Okay, now the next step for you, if you want to become fluent across the fretboard and be able to embellish that melody no matter where you are, is to first transpose the scale and see if you can find that exact melody in a different position. For example, I can play the E minor blues scale here on the 12th fret of the low E string. And find that exact same melody. Summertime, and the living is easy. I can find it here in the open position, right? Same exact scale. But now using open strings. Okay, we can also play it here. And right there, that's a borrowed note from the chord. because B dominant 7 is a borrowed chord. It's usually not in the key of E minor, okay? And that just means that we need to reach outside of the scale, outside of our comfort zone, and borrow a note right from the chord shape to make it work melodically. Okay, so practice that melody, get it down, see if you can move it across the fretboard, find those notes, then you're gonna be ready to embellish it. Okay, getting started breaking down my original solo. When I first jump in, I tend to stay pretty close to the original melody, just throwing in the bare minimum in terms of embellishments. So instead of playing just the basic melody like this, I might throw in a sweep pick to get started, something like this. And then just add a little bit more vibrato, maybe some slight bends to make it sound a little bit more soulful. And maybe a little fill there as well since I have some space. All right, that was the 7th fret of the D string, sliding up and back. Little pull off down full step. And then a ghost note, playing the root note E very quietly, okay? Because one of the things that I want to focus on, especially with a tune like this that's very moody, right, is I want to focus on the dynamics. Okay, so let's get that first line down, let's practice it. And with the backing track, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and then we can play. All right, a very nice lick over the A minor chord change. So I'm playing an embellishment to that melody line, and then a very nice, very melodic kind of Spanish style fill. Okay, so again, that rest stroke through the E minor chord shape, back to the 8th fret B string, and then a slide up a full step with some heavy vibrato. All right, so fish are jumping. Then we're gonna play. All right, so here I'm picturing the A minor chord shape, because that's the chord I'm playing over, right here, in its D-shaped position. I'm gonna arpeggiate it, then go up to the 12th fret high E string, and then scale down. All right, next I'm gonna do a hammer pull, 12th fret B string, back to 8 on the high E, and then finally, back to the 12th fret of the B string with some more vibrato. Real slow. Okay, you put that line together and we have. Okay, and putting that into context, so far we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and the living is easy. Little fill. And the A minor. Next. Okay, next. My favorite chord change in the progression is coming. It's that dominant 7, 5 chord, B dominant 7, which is a borrowed chord shape, meaning that we're gonna have to draw some notes out of the chord to make it work melodically, which is tricky, but also a tremendous opportunity to play something that is a little bit more catchy, a little bit more evocative. So there I'm gonna play this nice little kind of arpeggio run. All right, with kind of a gypsy jazz flair. Okay, so that's gonna start off in the 12th fret position. To play over this chord B7, I'm gonna picture it in its C-shaped position. 14, 13, 14, 12. And I'm basically going to be arpeggiating that shape, adding in a few extra tones and embellishments as I go. So it's gonna start off on the 12th fret high E string. Then I'm gonna pull off 14 down the 12, and slide down a half step. Right there, that's where the chord change B7 is coming in, changing from A minor 6 to B dominant 7. From there we're going to play. Okay, so that was 13, 12 on the B, reaching your pinky up to 14, down to 11, D string 13, down to 10, and then a hammer pull. That's going to be 9, 10, 9. Put that together and we have real slow. Make sure your pick is alternating. One more time. Very important that you get it into your ear. All right, once you've played that, next we need to transition from the B7 chord back to the 1 chord E minor. So there, I'm gonna play this nice kind of climbing Django Reinhardt style lick. And right there, the E minor chord comes back in, and I'm playing that chord's minor third. All right, so using just the index and the middle finger, we're playing 9, 10, 8, 9, 7, slide up to 10. And right there is where we're gonna start the next lick. Okay, you put those two phrases together and we have... All right, and putting them into context with the backing track. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Summertime, and the living is easy. Fish are jumping. There's our next set of phrases. We're going to be playing the 8th fret of the B string, sliding up a full step, and then a nice little double stop lick. Looks and sounds like this. At full speed. All right, so that was 12, 12, B and high E strings. Next, I'm going to slide down a half step to fret number 10. As I hold down the high E string 12th fret. All right, from there it's going to be 12, 10, 12, 9, 12. So. You can use some hybrid picking if you like. And then alternate from there on out. You put that together and we have... We're going to repeat it twice through. Which is great because you want to have a little bit of symmetry, a little bit of repetition in your solos. Okay, putting that into context, we started off with that A minor lick, then the B7, the climb, and then, there it is. I'm going to stop one note early, then play. All right, putting a nice little bow on this solo. Okay, so now I'm back in the position that I started in. All right, that first phrase. All right, so that was 9, 7, 9, 7, 7, 9, 8, ending right there with a slight bend. Coming out of that last phrase. All right, next we're gonna do a bend on the 10th fret of the B string, a bend and a return, and then pull off down to 8. Before playing. All right, so that was a slide up to the 12th fret of the B string, 10th fret high E, sliding back, and then pulling off down a full step before going to the 9th fret of the G string, an E note to resolve. Okay, so. All right, you put that phrase together and we have. All right, now in my demonstration, I did play one more lick, which you can think of as kind of a jump off for your next repetition of the solo, where you can craft your own. What I played was this. Okay, so now I'm back in the 12th fret position, picturing my E minor chord, also my minor blues scale, with the addition of the 14th fret of the high E string, that major second, a very evocative note to add into your solos. Okay, I'm gonna play that first phrase. All right, so that was 15th fret high E string with some dead notes raking down the strings. Then 12, 15, 12, ending there on the B string. All right, then I'm gonna go to the 14th fret of the high E string with some vibrato before playing. 12, 15, 12, and then slide in 15 up to 17 on the B string, going up into what we call the upper extension of the minor blues scale. Okay, and that's gonna overlap with the E minor chord in its little D minor shape. Okay, from there I'm gonna play. All right, the start of your next melody. That's gonna be 17 on the B string, high E string, 15, 17, 15, and then slide, 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 slide. From there, if you like, you can start kind of cameoing that melody once again. All right, to jump into your next solo. Okay, you put that last little section together and we have. Okay, so let's put that into context now. We're gonna play through the entire solo and you're gonna do your best to play along. You may need to stop and restart, maybe practice a few licks a little bit more before you're ready to play all the way through. Okay, but it's gonna look and sound like this when you have it all said and done. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and space. All right, everybody, I hope you enjoyed that. Remember, you can head over to patreon.com/Swiftlessons. You're gonna be able to find tabs for all these licks, also the backing track, and I'm gonna have a jam track for you to download so that way you can practice the solo over and over and get it into your chops. Until next time, this is Rob coming at you temporarily from Krakow, Poland, saying happy picking.